Now listen, let me tell you something the way Steve Harvey would say it. See, most women got this thing backwards. You think if you give a man everything he wants, he's going to stay. You think if you're always available, always saying yes, always picking up the phone, always adjusting your life around him, that somehow makes you more valuable. No, ma'am, that makes you easy. A woman who doesn't chase a man holds a kind of quiet power that many people overlook, because in a world where everyone is trying to be seen, she chooses instead to be valued. When she steps back and allows a man to come toward her, it immediately changes the energy between them. Instead of trying to prove herself or win his attention, she simply exists in her own space, confident in who she is, and that confidence creates curiosity. A man begins to notice that she is not like everyone else who is constantly texting, calling, or seeking validation. Her absence of chasing is not coldness, it is self-control, and that self-control signals strength. Men are naturally wired to pursue what feels meaningful, and when something is not handed to them easily, it activates their desire to invest effort. When a woman is always available, always initiating, always trying to keep the connection alive, it removes the need for him to step up. But when she leans back and allows him to lead, he begins to feel the responsibility to show up, to impress, and to maintain her interest. This does not mean she plays games or ignores him on purpose. It means she respects her own time and energy enough not to overextend herself. She doesn't rearrange her entire life just to fit into his schedule, and she doesn't drop everything the moment he reaches out. Instead, she responds when it suits her, engages when she feels like it, and continues living her life regardless of his presence. That independence creates a subtle challenge that makes him want to understand her more, to get closer, and to earn a place in her world. When a man senses that he has to work for her attention, he values it more deeply, because effort creates attachment. The more he invests, the more meaningful she becomes to him. By not chasing, she also protects her own emotional balance, avoiding the anxiety that comes from overgiving or overthinking. She stays grounded, allowing the connection to develop naturally rather than forcing it, and in doing so, she becomes the kind of woman a man doesn't just notice, but remembers and pursues with genuine intention. A woman who refuses to tolerate disrespect sends a clear and powerful message about her self-worth without needing to say much at all. The way she responds to poor behavior defines the tone of the entire relationship. When she allows disrespect, whether it comes in the form of inconsistency, broken promises, rude language, or emotional neglect, it slowly teaches a man that these actions are acceptable. Over time, that acceptance lowers the standard of the connection and weakens her position in it. But when she draws a firm line and calmly refuses to engage with anything that undermines her value, it creates an immediate shift. A man begins to realize that access to her is not guaranteed, and that realization forces him to become more aware of how he shows up. Respect is not something that should be requested repeatedly. It is something that should be expected and maintained through boundaries. This kind of woman does not argue endlessly, or try to convince someone to treat her better. She understands that behavior speaks louder than words, and instead of begging for change, she pays attention to actions. If those actions don't align with her standards, she creates distance without drama. That ability to walk away from what doesn't serve her is what makes her stand out, because it shows emotional strength and self-respect. Many people stay in situations where they feel undervalued out of fear of losing the connection, but she is willing to lose the connection rather than lose herself. That mindset changes everything, because it removes desperation and replaces it with dignity. When a man encounters a woman like this, he quickly understands that he cannot take shortcuts with her. He cannot disappear and return whenever he feels like it, and he cannot offer the bare minimum and expect her to stay. He knows that if he crosses a line, there are real consequences, not empty threats. This doesn't push a good man away. It actually draws him closer, because it creates a sense of clarity and a respect within the dynamic. He knows exactly where he stands and what is expected of him, and that clarity makes him more intentional. By refusing disrespect, she not only protects her peace, but also sets the foundation for a healthier and more balanced connection where mutual respect becomes the standard rather than the exception. A woman who doesn't give everything too quickly understands the value of pacing, and that patience creates a deeper level of respect and attraction over time. When she reveals herself slowly, her emotions, her attention, her affection, it allows a natural build to take place, something that feels earned rather than instantly available. Many people mistake fast connection for real connection, believing that if everything clicks immediately, it must be something special. But when too much is given too soon, it often removes the excitement of discovery, and without that sense of progression, the connection can lose its depth just as quickly as it formed. A man begins to feel like there is nothing left to uncover, no journey to experience, and without that journey, his level of investment can drop. By holding back just enough, not in a manipulative way, but in a self-respecting way, she creates space for anticipation to grow. Each conversation, each meeting, each moment becomes something that builds on the last rather than exhausting everything at once. This gradual unfolding allows a man to emotionally invest step by step, and the more he invests, the more meaningful the connection becomes to him. Effort plays a huge role in attachment, because people tend to value what they have worked for. When she doesn't rush into giving all her time, energy, or vulnerability, it signals that these things are valuable and should be treated with care. This also protects her from becoming overly attached before she has truly seen who he is. When everything moves too fast, it becomes easy to overlook red flags or create an illusion of who the other person might be. By taking her time, she observes his consistency, his intentions, and his character. She allows actions to speak instead of relying only on words, and that awareness keeps her grounded. It ensures that her investment is based on reality, not just emotion. At the same time, this approach creates a sense of balance where both people are contributing and discovering each other at a healthy pace. In the eyes of a man, this kind of woman stands out because she doesn't operate from urgency or fear of losing him. Instead, she operates from confidence, knowing that what is meant for her will not pass her by. That calm energy makes him slow down as well, making him more intentional in how he approaches her, ultimately leading to a connection that feels more real, more stable, and more worth holding on to. A woman who values her time and space understands that her life is already full, meaningful, and complete on its own, and that a relationship should add to it rather than become the center of it. When she treats her time as something important, it naturally signals to a man that he must also respect it. She is not constantly available at every moment, not because she is playing games, but because she genuinely has priorities, responsibilities, and personal interests that matter to her. This creates a dynamic where her presence feels intentional rather than automatic, and that intention carries weight. When a man knows that her time is limited and valuable, he approaches her differently, making more effort to plan, to show up, and to make moments count. Having space in a relationship is just as important as spending time together, and a woman who understands this does not lose herself in the connection. She maintains her individuality, continues to pursue her goals, and keeps her own identity intact. This independence is deeply attractive because it shows that she is not relying on the relationship to define who she is. Instead of becoming consumed by constant communication or needing reassurance every moment, she is comfortable with distance, trusting that the connection does not require constant attention to remain strong. This level of emotional security brings a sense of calmness that a man can feel, and it reduces pressure within the relationship. When a woman gives herself space, she also allows the man to miss her, to think about her, and to appreciate her absence. Constant availability can sometimes lead to familiarity that feels routine, but space creates appreciation. It gives both people the opportunity to reflect, to recharge, and to come back to each other with renewed energy. A man begins to associate her with balance rather than stress, with peace rather than pressure, and that feeling becomes something he values deeply. At the same time, valuing her time means she does not tolerate being an option or a last-minute choice. She expects consistency and effort, and if a man cannot meet her at that level, she is willing to step back rather than lower her standards. This teaches him that her time is not something to be taken lightly. It encourages him to be more intentional, to communicate clearly, and to prioritize her properly. In this way, her respect for her own time sets the tone for how others treat her, creating a connection built on mutual respect, balance, and genuine appreciation. A woman who has standards and truly sticks to them carries a presence that immediately sets her apart because her behavior is guided by clarity rather than emotion or pressure. Standards are not just things she says out loud. They are principles she lives by, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Anyone can claim to have standards, but the real difference shows when those standards are tested. When faced with a situation where she could compromise just to keep someone around. She chooses instead to stay aligned with what she believes she deserves. That consistency sends a powerful message that she values herself enough not to settle for temporary comfort at the cost of long-term respect. Her standards shape the way she allows people into her life, the way she communicates, and the way she responds to behavior that doesn't match her expectations. She is not harsh or unrealistic, but she is clear. She knows the difference between small imperfections and fundamental issues, and she does not confuse potential with reality. If a man shows her through his actions that he cannot meet her at the level she requires, she doesn't try to fix him or lower her expectations just to make things work. Instead, she steps back with dignity, understanding that the right person will naturally align with what she is looking for. This ability to walk away is what gives her standards real strength, because without action, standards become empty words. A man encountering a woman like this quickly realizes that he cannot rely on charm or temporary effort to win her over. He understands that consistency, honesty, and genuine intention are required if he wants to remain in her life. This doesn't intimidate the right man. It actually motivates him because it gives him something real to rise to. He knows that if he earns her trust and meets her standards, the connection will be meaningful and stable rather than uncertain or temporary. At the same time, her standards protect her from situations where she might otherwise feel undervalued or overlooked. By holding firm to what she believes in, she creates a life where respect is the foundation rather than something she has to fight for. She does not chase validation, and she does not adjust her worth based on someone else's behavior. Instead, she remains steady, allowing her standards to guide her decisions, and in doing so, she naturally attracts people who are capable of meeting her at the level she has already set for herself. A woman who doesn't depend on a man for her happiness carries a completely different energy, one that feels secure, grounded, and deeply attractive. Her happiness is not tied to someone else's attention, validation, or presence, which means she is not constantly seeking reassurance or fearing loss. Instead, she has built a life that already fulfills her, whether through her passions, her goals, her friendships, or her personal growth. When she enters a relationship, she is not looking for someone to complete her, but rather someone to share in the life she has already created. This shift removes pressure from the connection and replaces it with something much more genuine. A man can sense when a woman is emotionally independent, and it changes the way he approaches her. He doesn't feel like he has to carry the weight of her happiness, but he does feel inspired to contribute to it. There is a difference between being needed and being wanted, and when a woman operates from a place of wholeness, she makes a man feel chosen rather than obligated. That feeling is powerful because it creates a deeper level of respect and appreciation. He knows she is with him because she wants to be, not because she has to be. This independence also protects her from losing herself in the relationship. She does not abandon her identity, her routine, or her self-worth in order to maintain the connection. if things change or if the relationship ends, she does not feel broken because her foundation was never built on another person. Instead, she remains steady, able to move forward without losing her sense of self.